Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, December 6th. It's about 550 albums coming out this week. I got 12 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, about 550 or so albums coming out this week. I'm only going to talk about 12 on the show though today, so if something I don't talk about, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to this week. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should all be available online. I'll put links down below in the comment section for them. You can also always go over to the Vinyl Den Amazon store. All the pre-orders are on there, new releases are on there, vinyl accessories, all sorts of cool stuff to check out. There's not a lot of new albums that are coming out this week, but there are quite a few reissues, a couple of which I've been waiting a long time to get reissued. Especially this first one. This is Ludacris, The Red Light District. Came out back in 2004. It was his fifth studio album. It's got a translucent red vinyl. It's a 2 LP release. It's going to run you about $40. This is one of my favorite rap albums of the early 2000s. And it did really well. It hit number one on the Billboard 200. Sold a couple of million copies here in the U.S. It's been out of print for a while. I think the only time it's ever been reissued, I think, was 2015. And those are really expensive if you want to try to track down a copy of that. So it's one I've had on my Discogs want list for a long time. This is a really good album. This has got number one spot is on this album. You've got Get Back on here. Blueberry Yum Yum is on this album. You've got, what are some other great tracks on here? Yeah, Hopeless is on this one. Large Amounts is another great track. It's really good. If you haven't listened to this album in a long time, it's worth checking out. And it's really interesting because it's this rap album mixed with, there's some funk on here. There's some R&B on here. Of course, Ludacris is known for his, rather comical lyrics at times. It's a really good album to kind of go back through. Like I said, I've wanted to copy that for a long time. And you also got the Rolling Stones Hackney Diamonds coming out this week. So this was released last year. This is a 1 year anniversary, which I'm not a huge fan of doing these kind of 1 year, because I guess it's kind of another take on doing the whole deluxe album a year after it came out. But anyway, it's their 24 studio album. This is a 2 LP release. It's going to be on clear and blue splatter vinyl. It's going to run you about $46. So it's been kind of the trend over the last couple of years is you release an album, then a year later you do like a deluxe edition, or they're doing a 1 year anniversary edition here. You throw some extra tracks on here. This does have a second LP. It's got 7 live tracks on there. It's a great album. I mean, it hit number one in I think it was like 19 different countries. It was number one and it hit number 2 here in the U.S. I think it's one of the best Rolling Stones albums in a very long time. But if the live stuff is available, I'll stream it and check it out. I don't really think I need another copy of that album, even though there's I think they pressed 40 different versions of that album a year ago. I don't know if we really need another one. You also got Frank Sinatra Collected getting reissued this week. This came out back in 2022. This is a 2 LP release. It's going to be on translucent blue vinyl, because of course it is. And that's going to run you about $40 online. So this is a music on vinyl release. And it's limited, I'm going to put limited in air quotes, to 10,000 copies. So there's a bunch of these that are going to be available. Should be pretty easy to track down. I love Frank Sinatra. And, I think if I'm, off the top of my head, I know I've got a compilation called Ultimate Sinatra that I'm not sure how that lineup is, the track listing compared to this one. But the listing on this one, it's most of his greatest tracks. There's also a bunch of really good collaborations he did across his career. And it, kind of showcases the evolution that Frank went through his, 5 decades in music. So that's definitely one I'm going to check out. And then there's also a reissue of Culture Club Colors by Number coming out this week. Came out back in 1983. It was their second studio album. It's going to be on light blue vinyl. It's going to run you about $30. This is one I think the last time this one was reissued was either 2015 or 2016. I know there's 3 different colored versions that they released. And those are all hard to track down. You're going to spend, I think, a minimum of $150. I've seen some of those go for over $600 also. So, this is one that's been definitely needed to be reissued for quite a while. It was a huge album. Of course, Karma Chameleon was the big track on here. It sold over 10 million copies. This is also newly remastered at Abbey Road. It's one I've had on my want list for a long time. I'll definitely grab a copy of that this week. There's also some really fantastic jazz albums getting reissued this week. The first one was Hank Mobley, A Slice of the Top. This came out back in 1979. It was recorded in 66 though, so I don't know why the big difference between it was when it was recorded and when it was released. But it's going to run about $39 online. This is part of the Blue Note Tone Poet series. These are always great releases. They're always mastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tapes, the pressed RTI. They're some of the best sounding albums in my record collection. I've never been disappointed by a Tone Poet release. But this album, this is one I just listened to probably within the last 6 or 7 months. When I saw the Tone Poet series release earlier this year, I started kind of going back through some of those albums because I wasn't familiar with a lot of them. But this is one of his more complex albums, a little more of an experimental album also. He's got a great lineup on this one, though. He's got James Spaulding on here. He's got Lee Morgan, which, of course, I love Lee Morgan. Howard Johnson's on here. McCoy Tyner's on here. Billy Higgins on here also. It is a really good one. If you're getting into jazz or if you've been a jazz fan for a while and you're unfamiliar with this one, it's definitely worth at least streaming and checking out. Then the next one is Freddie Roach, Good Move. This came out back in 63. It's also part of the Tone Poet series. So it's also going to run you about $39. Same thing. All mastered by Kevin Gray, Preston RTI. And this is a really interesting release because this is more like a soul jazz album, I kind of would classify this as. It's definitely more laid back, has this really relaxed feel to the album. It's one of those albums where you want to put on, you want to like sit back, in a nice comfortable chair, have a nice drink with you. It's just one of those kind of albums that kind of sit back and vibe to. And it's the same thing. Same thing with the other album. It's joined by a bunch of great musicians on here. Blue Mitchell, Hank Mobley, Eddie Wright, Clarence Johnston. It's a great album. There's also a release coming out this week from the Contemporary Records Acoustic Sound Series. These are always mastered by Bernie Grumman. They're pressed at QRP. They're overseen by Chad Kassem from Acoustic Sounds. These are also some great sounding albums. But this is Sonny Rollins, Way Out West, released back in 57. It's going to run you about $30 online. This album is one that I think is one of the most influential jazz albums of the late 50s and early 60s. I know this is the first album he did with Contemporary Records, but I don't know if I've listened to anything else he did from the label. This is one that, like I said, I love this. This is the same thing with the couple of those other jazz releases. I just listened to this one within probably the last, probably 12 to 18 months as I've gotten more into Sonny's music. So it's definitely one worth checking out. Then there's also Ben Webster. Ben Webster meets Oscar Peterson coming out. This was released back in 1960. This is part of the Verve Acoustic Sound series. It's going to run you about $39. So Ben was one of the more influential jazz saxophonists of his era. And this album that he did with Oscar, I think is one of the best small jazz performance albums of that era. This is an album that has the last several reissues that they've done. It's been on like Wax Time. There's been some other smaller labels that have reissued this album over the last couple of years, and they don't really sound great. I know the last Verve reissue, I think it was 2016, so this was one that was definitely due to get reissued. There's also Life and Times by Jim Croce getting reissued this week. This came out back in 73. It was his fourth studio album. It's going to run about $24 online. So this album was released, I think it was January or February when this album got released. And then Jim died, I think it was September, so it wasn't too long after this album came out. Of course, everyone knows Bad Bad Leroy Brown on this album, but One Less Set of Footsteps is also a great album, or a great track off of this album. I've long considered this some of his best work. It did really well. It hit number 7 on the Billboard 200. It's all newly remixed and remastered. I'm sure this one's going to sound great. It's an album I don't have, so I definitely need to grab a copy of it. And then there's Stevie Wonder, the Definitive Collection coming out. This came out back in 2002. It's a 2 LP release. It's going to be on gold vinyl. It's going to run you about $38. This is one that I don't think it's ever been available on vinyl before. It's been available on CD for a long time. But, going through online, I've never seen a copy of it anywhere. I've never seen it online anywhere. This is a great compilation from Stevie. And this has a lot of his best tracks on here. I think there's 21 or 22 tracks on here. And this really shows the evolution that Stevie went through from this music prodigy with Motown into the music innovator that he would become. I've long considered Stevie, one of the greatest musicians of all time. The next release is one that I was really disappointed because I've been waiting a very long time for this one to get reissued. This is the High Fidelity soundtrack. Came out back in 2000. It's on blue vinyl. This is one of my favorite movies of the 2000s. It's one of my favorite soundtracks of the 2000s also. I've been waiting years for this thing to get reissued. And this thing is priced at $75, which is absolutely ridiculous. I get it. It's an import. So, it's one I'm not going to buy. I'm not going to drop that kind of money on it. it is, like I said, it's a good soundtrack. I've got it on CD though. I can enjoy the CD rather than paying the $75 for it. Hopefully, it will eventually get a reissue here in the U.S. and I'll be able to grab a copy of it. And the last album I got on my list is the Jethro Tull Christmas album. Came out back in 2003. It's a 2 LP release. It's going to run you about $33 online. This is all newly remixed and remastered by Bruce Sword. Bruce took over from Steven Wilson. Steven has been doing all the remixing for Jethro Tull for the last 10 plus years. But Bruce took over on this project. There's also a 4 CD and a Blu-ray box set that's also going to be released. I want to say it's like $50 or $55 for that one. And there's more material on that 4 CD set. The vinyl version is just the standard album. But on the CD set, you've also got Christmas Live at St. Bride's from 2008. There's also a concert from 2006 on there. I think total there's like 40 unreleased tracks on there. This is a really good mixture of some traditional classic, Christmas music and some new tracks that they put together. It's one that, like I said, I'm probably not going to pick it up this week, but it's a good one to check out. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to picking up this week. I'm probably going to grab that Ludacris album. I'll probably grab that Culture Club also because, like I said, I've been wanting to copy that for a long time. I spent a lot of money on records lately, though. So as much as I love all 4 of those jazz albums, I'll probably hold off for now. But I'll put some question marks next to those. I'll check out some other ones. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep all spinning. Peace.